So I want to talk about something from my past that was actually very significant in how my future has come together. And you may, or some people know this, some people don't, but I used to be a stripper. And when I was a stripper, it was probably one of the most fun jobs that I've ever had in my entire life. And it was right after high school. It was before I moved to New York City. And a few of my friends and myself became strippers. It all started with a bikini contest and led to stripping. And I remember going into the audition, like you had, they wanted to see you dance. You couldn't just sign up for it. You had to go in and that was part of the interview. Like, okay, go show us what you got. And I remember I had to go on this little stage toward the back, behind the bar, near the bathrooms. And there was already, a crowd in there. It was actually during the day, but there was a crowd in there, lots of businessmen and all that stuff. And there was a woman on the stage. And I remember getting up on stage and I was in my element. All of it, it was like everything around me was gone. It was like I was just there and finally free to be me, free to let out everything that was inside of me, everything that I tried to let out my whole entire life, and people told me I was wrong, or I, judged myself that it was wrong because of what I would hear from influences and other people. And, I've felt stifled most of my life, and it was very much tied to my sexuality. Like my sexuality was raging from a very young age. And I don't mean that in an icky, creepy way. I mean that I knew my power. I was aware of my power and I wasn't ashamed of it. And I came out of the womb that way. And I would do things that seemed very mature for my age, the way I carried myself, the way I wanted to dress. And it was just burning inside of me to be let out. And, sometimes my family would joke about it. Sometimes I would get in trouble for wanting to wear what I wanted to wear or doing the things that I was doing. And this went on for my whole entire life. And it was like year after year, just being put like this straitjacket just got tighter and tighter and tighter. And it was like this noose being wrapped around my neck. And every time I tried to let her out and be what I knew I was inside, something would happen to knock me down. Something would happen to, I just started repeating those patterns of this is wrong. I am wrong for wanting to allow this. And that led up to me being bullied. That's when I really shut it off. And, things happened later that I'll talk about in other videos with sexual assault and things like that when my power was really diminished. And looking back on my life, I didn't know this at the time, but looking back on my life, this was a major theme. Yes, I was feeling stifled because I couldn't feel fully self-expressed, and my expression, as all of our expression is, tied very much to our sexual energy, to our creativity. They are one in the same. This is the same energy that you receive money with. They are one in the same. They are in your sacral chakra, and they are powerful. It is your life fucking force. And when you deny this or deprive yourself of this, you literally start to wither and die. You stop growing. This is your curiosity. This is your energy. This is where it all comes from. And I was thinking about this. I'm writing a book, which I'll tell you more about later in this video or in another day. But I'm writing a book. And as I look through, and even just doing the work, that I've created on myself, going through all of that, I realize these themes in my life. And I realize when I've felt my most powerful. And one of those times was when I was a stripper. I was not the prettiest girl in the room. I was definitely not the skinniest girl in the room. I don't think I was ever the skinniest girl in the room. And people were flocking to me when I was in that audition. I was on that stage, that teeny tiny stage, and as I shut out the rest of the world, it wasn't about anyone. It wasn't about me trying to get hired. It wasn't about me trying to attract people to me. I wasn't trying to get anything. I was in the zone. I was feeling it. I felt amazing. I felt alive. And it was like when I came to, I realized the crowds were around me on this tile floor near the bathroom in the back. Oh, they were coming away from the stage. They were cheering me on. And I was like, whoa, like I didn't expect that at all. I thought there was just a handful of people watching, to make sure that I could cut it. And it was all because I didn't worry about anyone else or anything else around me. The blinders were on. It wasn't about anyone else. It was always about me. I didn't want to be a stripper for money. I didn't want to be a fashion designer for money. I didn't want to do what I do now for money. The money comes as a result of valuing yourself and being true to yourself. When you are allowing your full self-expression, you cannot not be a match to value. That is where you give the most. That is where you are giving the most. Anytime you are worried about what's going on outside of you, you are trying to get something. You are trying to prove something. You are trying to be something to someone else or prove that you are this or be appropriate or be professional or be however it is that you're trying to be, whatever the judgment is for you that you are not, you are trying to be more of for other people if you're trying to pull people in that way. And I remember this clicking for me as an entrepreneur too, because when I was first starting my business, first of all, I was in the wrong business and I was repeating the same patterns as, what happened to me in the fashion industry, just like the pushing and the overwork and killing my adrenal glands and all of that stuff. And then once I transitioned into what my heart really wanted to talk about, then it was like, okay, I'm on the right path as far as what I want to speak about. I know, what my purpose is and all of that stuff and the stuff that I want to talk about. But then I was still caught up in the marketing, like, oh, is this email funnel right? Oh, is this, maybe I should take this course or maybe I should watch this person and make sure that I have this in place. No. Every single time that I had some success, it was directly tied to me not giving a shit about any of that. Every single time that it felt fun to me, what I'm doing right now feels fun. What I'm doing right now feels fun. This does not feel like work. I've done plenty of videos that felt like work because I was trying to get something out of people. This is just every morning I have coffee time. You may or may not know that. I've talked about this before, and I have a whole thing that I do during my coffee time, and it is play. It is play to me, but I've actually watched it turn into work. It's become work. It's through that time of me getting my mind clear, of me, moving and exercising my body, that I start to receive all of my downloads from the ethers and my ideas, and then they want to be expressed. And that was the last piece that I kind of wasn't doing because I thought it had to be a certain way. I thought, I kept putting social media and I kept putting video and things like that on the back burner because I was like, oh, well, I need to get this funnel set up, or I need to make sure I have the right webinar, or I need to make sure I do this right. But really that's the missing piece. Every time I just go with that and just let that happen, that's when clients come out of the woodwork. That's when people sign up for my courses. That's when people approach me. And the same thing used to happen when I was a stripper. I was never a fan of hustling for money. And I made great money as a stripper, but it was never about the money for me. It was about being on stage. I loved being on stage. I loved choosing my music. I loved expressing my mood through my outfits. That's all I wanted to do. And then when it came to we had table dances in PA, the rules were pretty strict, but when it came to that, I had to walk around and hustle and be like, hey, you want a table dance or whatever. That never sat well with me. It wasn't fun. It took all the fun out of it. So I just stopped doing it. I would go on stage and then I would sit in the corner with my friends, and some people that I knew, and we would play Uno or relax until it was my turn to go on stage. And I made money that way because the people could feel that. People could feel that. It took away that desperate vibe. It took away that, not even desperate, but just trying to get something from some people, and it would make people come to me. And when I was on stage, it made people want to watch me because it was never about them. Right now, this video is not about you. It's about me speaking about the things that come through me and want to be said. It's about me sharing my story. That's what makes people want to listen to you. That's what is scary, but it's scary but exhilarating at the same time. You know, I went back and forth about even using the stripper thing in this thing. And because I started going back and forth, I was like, okay, of course, that's it. You know, and I've talked about it before. I'm not ashamed that I was a stripper. It was really fun, and I have nothing against stripping. But all of a sudden, you know, the mind comes in. It's like, well, is that appropriate? Is that professional? Is that this? Is that that? And your mind starts judging you, okay, based on the belief system that you have had, those meanings that you've made from a long time ago when someone told you, you, as you are wrong. And that is the fear that holds us back from all of it. That is the fear that holds us back from saying what we want to say, from doing what we want to do, from wearing what we want to wear, from being who we want to be. We don't want to be wrong for being us. We want to be loved and accepted and feel like we belong for being us. And the reverse is true. When you let go of that judgment, that shame around what your story is, who you really are, that is true confidence. You can't have true confidence and be worrying about what people think at the same time. True confidence, you don't feel like you need to compete. You don't feel like you need to compare. You can just let it out. You can just be you. And that is why I had to start doing this. That is why I had to not wait for clarity, right? I had to go with what was happening to me in the moment. And I know so many of us get hung up on clarity, but that lack of clarity is just you resisting what's really in your heart. You are never going to see the full path. You are never going to see the full path. If you can see the full path, it is not your fucking path. I wrote a separate thing on this. It's on my page somewhere. But if you can see the path, it is not your path, and you will never be fulfilled if you take that path. Trust me, I've done it twice in my life, and I have never felt so dead inside. I mean that, dead inside. Like my energy literally tanked. It took 11 years, but it tanked. And then I started to repeat that process again, and the same thing started happening. It wasn't until I surrendered to what I could not see and just learned to trust, yes, the universe, but also myself. That is when things started turning around for me. That is when I started getting the answers that I needed about my health. That is when I started coming back to life. It was because I started managing my energy. I started valuing my energy. Your energy is your most valuable fucking resource, more so than your money for sure, more so than time. You can have all the time in the world, but if you don't have the energy to enjoy it and to do what you came here to do, it doesn't matter. It's wasted. You need to start with your energy. And the best form of self-care is self-expression. You will never feel so alive, so powerful, and so charged as you will when you listen to what's in your heart and you do what's true to you. And yes, some people may condemn you. Some people may stop following me because I was a stripper. Some people may not follow me because I say fuck. Some people may not follow me because they're jealous. Some people just might not need what I am now giving, and that is totally cool. And it's cool for you too, because as you do that, the people that come in, I've been doing this for the last few months, maybe 6 months, and the people that have come in are so much more aligned with who I am, are so much more a match to who I am. I would hang out with them in real life. I don't feel like I need to be nice. I don't feel like I need to, be a certain way that I'm not. I feel the more I'm myself, the more I feel I can fully be myself because I'm attracting those same like-minded people. This happens over and over again in all areas of your life. It's not just business. I felt the same way that I did in my work, as I did with my money, as I did in all of my relationships. And it was always this deep, deep need to be seen. We all, as humans, just want to be expressed and accepted as we are expressed, as we are fully self-expressed. That is your fucking purpose. That is what you are here to do, to listen to that. And as you become more expressed, you just naturally want to be accepted by that. And you want to have your existence witnessed. So do not feel bad for wanting other people to see you. I used to feel bad about that, but really that was it. Like, I just want my existence witnessed. You don't have to like it. You don't have to, hate it. You don't have to do anything. It's just about being witnessed. That's how we know that we are alive. We see ourselves in others, and it is a big mirror. And when we have that witnessed and we feel accepted from the inside out of who we are, that is where you feel the most peace. That is where you are vibing in the most valuable place that you can vibrate in, because you are honoring who you really are, because you are trusting yourself. And no, it was not, I was going to wrap up, but you know what? I think this is really important. No, this was not a easy fix. Like, I had, first of all, this has been going on my whole entire life without me realizing, right? I left the fashion industry in 2012, completely burnt out, adrenals fucking torched. Like, there was a lot of stuff going on, and it just caused a domino effect in my body. And I literally needed to just, rest for a really long time. And I did that for my first year. I wasn't really thinking about all of this yet. I knew I wanted an online business because I felt that that was going to give me freedom. I didn't realize yet that that freedom had to come from the inside yet. I was still putting it on the outside of me, the same way that I did in fashion, when I was like, oh, okay, once I get to this level, then I'll feel more free and express. And that never happened. And I started doing the same thing, but I just needed to rest. And then as I started to unravel and unpack this stuff that was going on with me, that is when I started to learn that, oh my gosh, this is me. And I've been doing it my whole entire life. Everything that I blamed for stifling me, everything I blamed for putting out my voice and for not allowing me to feel free, everything from my father to my boyfriends to fashion. I had a love-hate relationship with fashion. All of it I was blaming. They were all external circumstances, and they all were just reflecting back what I was doing to myself because of that deep-seated fear of being wrong. And then this unraveled over years, okay? So I just now have started being it over the past 6 months as it started, to become more obvious to me. And as I did my work and let a lot of this stuff go, that was when I was able to do it. It was very hard for me to do before that. I had to go in. I had to completely lose myself to find myself again. And it's not a new self. It's my old self who's back and she's new, if that makes sense. And I know some of you can relate to that. But it was like I had to really strip myself down, no pun intended, strip myself down to my core and see what was really going on. And not just see it, but I had to be honest about it. I had to be honest about it with myself, and then start to be honest about it in my work. And that was scary, and it is scary, but it's also exciting. And as I did that and shifted the original beliefs that I needed to shift and got in touch with those emotions that were too painful to feel at the time when they happened in my past, as I processed all of that and used my tools to get through that, that is when it started to become easier and easier. Doesn't mean it wasn't scary, but easier and easier to not care what other people think. It opened my eyes, it shifted my perspective, and it gave me a much more broad perspective. So I could see the big picture, and I could see, wait, my perspective is totally fucking off. Actually, I need to stop looking at them. I need to stop worrying about what everyone else is doing. I need to stop feeling like I'm going to be wrong for not, like that's why I couldn't trust myself. That's why we can't trust ourselves. It's that fear of being wrong. And I needed to realize how on point my intuition was. And as that happened more and more, it became more and more apparent, number one, who I really was. And number two, it became less exhausting. So what I'm doing right now, what I've done this morning, and this is a big part of my Easy Money program, because as children, who I am is the same girl that I was when I was a child. I am no different. My favorite thing to do in the world is to play dress up and feel sexy and have that witnessed and express whatever I feel like expressing. That was always my favorite thing to do. it still is my favorite thing to do to this day. And I was like, how can I infuse this in my business? And I realized all of the stuff I was putting on the back burner was the same thing I used to do in fashion. All of the fun stuff I would put on the back burner because it didn't feel like work, and I would make it feel like work. So I had to think about what feels like play, because that's the only way I'm going to feel free. And I had to trust that process, because it does not look like work, like the way we think work looks like. So every morning I knew that I actually love my coffee time. Coffee time was designed originally because I didn't want to jump right into work. It was my sacred me time where I could just be myself, journal, do whatever I wanted, clear my mind, and it was mine. And when I left the fashion industry and didn't have to go to work at a certain time, coffee time got longer and longer. And I started thinking like, well, how am I ever going to get to work? Because coffee time is just getting longer and longer. And I feel like I need to be doing all of these things on my to-do list that everyone told me I should be doing. And I finally realized coffee time is my work. It is my work. There was only one piece missing. The stuff that was coming through during coffee time wasn't always being shared. It would be put on the back burner because it felt good. It felt fun. And I had to get to a place where my belief system allowed me to let it be easy. I had to get to a place where I allowed myself not to feel like I needed to prove myself, not to feel like I needed to be perfect, not to feel like I needed to, what's the word I'm looking for? Work hard for it, And people have different definitions of what work hard means. And work hard meant, for me, it meant to struggle. It meant to push myself when it didn't feel good. It meant to do things that I didn't want to do. Work was its own category of stuff that no one really wants to do. But it doesn't have to be that way. Your work can be your play. You just have to see your play as valuable. And that's what my Easy Money program does. That's also what I'm going to talk more about in a free class that I'm doing. I'm actually not sure if it's going to be a class or videos, but whatever it is, I want you to sign up. If you can resonate with this, please sign up. You can get it at susanf.com/freedom-and-flow. I'm going to go into this a lot more. And if you go to that page, you'll see what it's all about, or whatever. But basically, it all came down to self-trust and letting go of the fear of being wrong in the end. And that's what I created tools to do. I had to do it myself, and I've done it. And, once you have that transformation, I've said this before, but once you have that transformation, you need to learn to be the butterfly. And that's what I had to do. And that's where the trust really comes in, because you need that trust. You need that energy, your life force, to move through that fear. That's what breaks you through that fear. And, God, so much of it is really just about giving yourself permission. Like, I just had to give myself permission to play. Like, this is fun to me, and I kept making it not my job, but really this is what actually brings in the most for me. Number one, it's the most fulfilling. Number two, it's the easiest and most fun. Number three, this is where I get the really good clients, when I'm just being upfront like this and in my zone. This is when people come to me. This is when it works, because I'm not trying to get anything out of anyone. There's no desperation. I only want to work with people who, are excited about this. Why would I want to work with someone else? And it was the same thing with the stripping. And, I just look to that as my little reminder of when you are totally in it. It's always a state. It's a state of mind. Sexy is a state of mind. Play is a state of mind. And you have been there. You used to be there when you were a little girl, mixing that creativity and that sexuality, whether you realized it or not. I know you felt it. Maybe it was when you were playing dress up like me and putting on shows. That was primarily most of my childhood. And somewhere along the way, we're told to stop, that's no longer appropriate, that's no longer, not how we're going to ever feel secure. That's not how we're going to make money. That's not how an adult behaves. And it's so not true. The opposite is what is true. The most, not just financially successful people, but the most fulfilled, happy, free people are the people that allow themselves to follow play. there's a man named Joseph Chilton Pierce. He wrote a book. The original book was called The Magical Child. He was a psychologist or a psychiatrist. Some years ago, he wrote this book, Magical Child, and he has several others. And in one of his books, Magical Parent, Magical Child, he talks about how play is our natural state and how to foster that in your child so you don't, feel like it's wrong. At some point, we start to feel like it's wrong because of our conditions. And he talks about discipline and how discipline is actually not about forcing yourself to do things that you don't want to do. The true original meaning of discipline is about following the teacher, naturally following the teacher and feeling joy while doing it. It's joyfully following the teacher or something like that. And when I read this, I was like, holy fucking hell, like this is it. This was a huge piece of the puzzle that I wasn't allowing for myself, because I looked at discipline a whole different way. I looked at discipline and that commitment as taking away my freedom. And because I was very disciplined, I was a fucking drill sergeant. I know I've spoke about this before, but I was a bully to myself. And I would bully myself into getting things done and doing more and, that whole thing. And really, I was doing it backwards. Instead of listening to that voice inside me, which that's the true discipline. That's what's leading you. You just have to trust. Again, you just have to trust. So, God, definitely comment on this. Definitely want to hear what you think. And I will see you soon in another video. I'm sure, another pantless video, and sign up for my class or my videos, because if this intrigued you, there is a lot more that goes into it, and I'm doing that really soon for the launch of my Easy Money program, which is also launching soon. But either way, I do the class. So susanf.com/freedom and flow, and I will see you soon.